Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're really going to dig deep into something that I think a lot of us have heard about,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe haven't really looked into super closely.
Yeah.
We're diving into ADHD.
Yes.
We're using a really interesting source that we found called What
Mm-hmm.
is ADHD?
Okay.
And it's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
So if you are like, maybe you're dealing with this yourself, or you know someone who is,
Right.
this is definitely the deep dive for you.
Absolutely.
So this source, what is ADHD? It defines ADHD as a neurodevelopmental disorder.
Mm.
Big words.
Right.
But basically, it all comes down to two main things. Inattention,
Okay.
and then hyperactivity and impulsivity. And those kind of go hand in hand.
You do, yeah.
So I feel like we can all relate to these things a little bit, right? Like, who hasn't gotten distracted?
Right. Exactly.
Started doing one thing, ended up doing something else entirely.
Happens to the best of us.
Right. But with ADHD, it's like, it's not just every now and then. And it's not just a little thing.
Right.
It's constant, and it makes it hard to, just go about your day-to-day life.
The source really hits on that. Like, it's not just about experiencing these things occasionally. It's the intensity, how often it happens, and the real consequences that come with it. That's what sets it apart.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that ADHD can look so different in kids
Absolutely.
versus how it shows up in adults.
Totally, yeah.
And this source, What is ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
actually talks about that.
Mm.
And, it really struck me, this idea that when kids are showing signs of ADHD, it often gets mistaken for just bad behavior.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're just not listening. They just have too much energy. They can't sit still.
Right, right. It's easy to jump to those conclusions, but it's so much deeper than that.
Right. And imagine being that kid, right?
Exactly.
You don't understand why you can't focus the way other kids can, or why you feel like you're always on the go.
Yeah, and then being told you're just being bad, that's got to be so tough.
And I imagine that can really do a number on your self-esteem, too.
Absolutely. And those early experiences, they don't just disappear. They can really impact someone later in life. I mean, think about it, your career, your relationships, even just how you feel about yourself in general.
It makes so much sense, though, right? Like, if you've been told your whole life that you're not trying hard enough, or that you're lazy or whatever, because you have trouble focusing,
Right.
that's going to stick with you.
Absolutely. It's like carrying this invisible weight around, and people don't always see it. They just see the outward behaviors, not the struggle underneath.
It's not a choice, though.
Right.
It's not like people are choosing to be disruptive.
Exactly.
It's really about how their brain is wired.
Exactly. And the source delves into the science behind it, like the actual biological differences in the brain.
Yeah, that's what I found really fascinating. Like, there's actual research showing that people with ADHD, they have structural differences in their brains.
Mm. Right. And that's huge because it challenges this whole idea that ADHD is made up. It's not about willpower or anything like that. There are actual physical differences.
Especially in the areas of the brain that control things like impulse control.
Yeah, and executive function, which is like the brain's management system.
So it's not just, oh, I'll just try harder. Like, there's an actual physical reason.
Yeah, it's not a matter of trying harder. It's about understanding how your brain works and finding ways to work with it, not against it.
Which is a perfect segue to this idea of, there's no magic cure for ADHD, right?
Right.
But this source really stresses that there are really effective treatments and things that can help people manage it.
Absolutely. It highlights things like therapy, medication, not as a way to like fix someone, but as tools to help people thrive.
And I like how it talks about therapy too, because it's not just about, here's what's wrong with you, let's try to fix it. It's about identifying your strengths too.
Exactly. It's about, like you said, working with your brain, not against it. Finding out what you're good at, what makes you tick, and using those things to your advantage.
I think that's such a powerful message.
Yeah.
Because it really shifts the whole perspective, from what's wrong with me
Mhm.
to what am I good at and how can I use that?
It's about embracing that neurodiversity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as you continue to learn about ADHD, think about this. What if instead of seeing ADHD as just a disorder, we started seeing it as a different way of thinking, a different way of experiencing the world? And maybe that different way of thinking, it comes with a whole lot of challenges, but it also comes with a lot of strengths too.
Creativity, out of the box thinking, a different perspective.
Right. So yeah, just something to think
A
about.
lot to think about.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.